Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, wherever you're listening to us from. This is Mike Maddox and Josh Gambala. I am the CEO of ASK, the greatest IT services company in the galaxy. This guy here with me is the head of Enhanced Security Services at ASK.
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
I am doing great.
We haven't done one of these in a while.
Well, you know, we try to get to them every quarter.
Right.
So I don't know if you know how this works, Josh. In a year, there's 4 quarters. You got the first quarter, you got the second quarter, you got the third quarter. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing right now is the third quarter security update.
I'm mostly focused on the security stuff and not that crazy business stuff.
Yes, that was a college class,
Mm-hmm.
break it.
Yep.
But in any event, we were going to talk about some other stuff too, and I'm really excited today because right now, this time of year, there's a couple of big things going on. The governor, first of all, announced that this week, the week we're in, September 29th to October 5th, is Michigan Manufacturing Week. And that's a big deal to us because we have a deep love and respect for the manufacturing community in Michigan. Many of our clients are manufacturers. These are people that make things. The heritage of the state of Michigan, we owe it, our work ethic, we owe a lot to the manufacturing sector. And the future in Michigan, I think, is going to be driven by some of the advances in manufacturing that we're starting to see in technology. So to all your manufacturers out there, our full support and admiration, and ASK salutes you, and congratulations on having the week named Michigan Manufacturing Week. I love how when a governor makes an announcement, it's full of whereas Michigan is home to a diverse. I'm going to start using that in my daily language.
I think you should.
Whereas I've called you in here to discuss your performance, and therefore I'll have to work on it.
Sounds very official.
Also, October is National
Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So there is no better time than right now for, if you're a business owner, executive out there, for you to stop, recognize that this is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Think about your company's security posture. Have you thought about it? Is there a plan in place? Have you had it audited, assessed, analyzed? It is your responsibility to make sure that your company doesn't become a victim and that the people that count on you don't become victims. And October is a great time to make that a strategic initiative. Agreed?
Right. Everyone's back in the office now. Summer's pretty much over.
Yeah.
So get everyone in the room. Send out daily emails. Really, we'd like to see it go on throughout the year. But if all we get's October, we'll take it.
You would like it to be Cybersecurity Awareness Month every
day.
month. Yes, because
Yeah.
that's what you do,
Yes.
and that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, it is. So, but anyway, reach out to us or to a qualified security firm if you have one. But it's something to look at as a high-level priority for all businesses, because what you see in terms of businesses being affected and what we see, has led us to the conclusion that every business needs to put a much higher priority on this because it's getting worse.
Sure, and if you were a public sector, they had a terrible summer. Lots of ransomware incidents that took place.
Yeah.
That's not
Municipalities, cities,
right.
Townships,
School districts,
businesses of all sizes, small, medium businesses are now more attacked than large businesses. This is everybody. This isn't just the big guys, folks. So pay attention. And Josh, I want to get into the security report, and there's no better thing to start with probably than the upcoming Windows end of life. So what that means is in January of 2020, so in a couple short months here, a few short months,
right.
Microsoft will no longer supply security patching for a couple of their operating systems, and they happen to be the most commonly used operating systems in the world.
Well, hopefully not anymore, but yes.
Yeah, Windows 7, which runs on desktops and laptops. That's an operating system that runs most of the laptops and desktops out there, or did. Very common, very popular. And on the server for your business, Windows Server 2008 R2, extremely common. Microsoft in January of this year will stop providing security patches. So in layman's terms, what happens? The world comes to an end, the sun goes dark, buildings come collapsing down, it rains cats and dogs. What happens?
No, nothing that bad. It's just all those computers will just shut off.
That's it? That's all?
No, no, that won't happen. They'll technically still function, and there are some edge cases where security updates might still be sent out. There are some support agreements and other things that can be done, but really those those, you shouldn't use those as a crutch at this point. You need to migrate to something like a Windows 10 server, a Server 2016 platform
or 2012.
Right, and we understand, especially going back to manufacturing, that look, if you have $1 million laser cutter and it runs on Windows 7 and there isn't any way to get it to Windows 10, then that's an issue for you. You're not gonna that $400 to $1,000 computer isn't going to be the deciding factor whether you keep your $1 million laser cutter. But there are things you can do.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, I mean, there are things working with, and we've had a lot of clients work with you and your team on this to maybe isolate.
Absolutely.
And you can isolate that away from the internet and make it less public facing, reduce your security exposure.
And really, we think that, at least in my opinion, a lot of those are those mitigating things that you can put in place. They're great. But we still only want to consider them to be short-term fixes.
Right. Only in a case where the overwhelming cost of replacing that laser cutter, it makes it not immediately feasible.
Yeah, but we still want to see a long-term decommission date set for that.
A plan, a roadmap, and that's what your team specializes in, is helping companies develop a security roadmap and plan over time.
For sure.
We get that everybody can't afford to do everything at once, but you can do this in steps and increments. Yeah, so back to what happened. So Microsoft will not supply security patches after January, which means that all those systems are sitting there with vulnerabilities that are known to the bad guys, and they become the surface area of attack. They become probably the first point of attack. The bad guys in the world are going to go, look, let's hit the server 2008s. Let's hit the Windows 7 machines, because they're sitting ducks. They don't have security.
And it's even a little bit more granular than that. So not only are they looking for that specific operating system, but frequently they'll be looking for the specific operating system, that specific vulnerability, and doing large scans across the internet, or using tools like Shodan, which is kind of a directory for that information, in order to. I
love cybersecurity terms. Shodan.
Yeah, in order to pinpoint easy targets.
Are you sure it's not Shodan?
You can pronounce it however you prefer.
I think it's Shodan.
Yeah, it's a website that we use that allows us to basically just put some search parameters in and go out and look for it. So some of the vulnerabilities for remote desktop earlier this year, we could easily go in there, put that information in, and it would just show us all of those vulnerable machines that were on the internet.
I'm going to start calling you Shodan. We've covered that. If you still have those systems in your environment, talk to your IT partner or give us a call here. I mean, we can still provide advice and help.
Yeah, and don't wait till December, because you're going to have trouble with getting PCs.
You're going to have trouble now. Yeah. The whole world is changing over, and I just walked past the project team room where there's about 20 people trying to figure out how to get our clients taken care of now.
The ones that waited.
The ones that waited. All right, I want to talk a little bit about manufacturing. Let's get into this a little bit more, just for a minute or two. Other than end of life, what are some of the big threats that face manufacturers? Because this is Manufacturing Week, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. If you were talking to the manufacturing audience out there, what are some of the big things to be looking at and to be aware of?
Well, not just exclusive to them, but they obviously have the same risk factors that everyone else has to start with. They have some additional complications with those risk factors. So things like multi-factor authentication on email. We'll frequently encounter in manufacturing where there's a larger split in their employee composition, where there's, let's say 70% of the people are in a manufacturing role and 30% of the people are in like a front office, management, those type of support roles up there. So the people in manufacturing may not be sitting down at a computer every day.
Right.
And so getting them to push multi-factor authentication to the entire organization can be a larger challenge for them than it is, necessarily for those dedicated computer workers.
Multi-factor authentication, two ways of verifying you are who you are when you log in. The organization may be resistant because they're not working on a computer all day long.
Right, and we have encountered issues where individuals haven't necessarily had a smartphone to receive something like a push notification.
There's other ways to do it.
Right, and there are. And so those complexities are something they have to deal with more frequently than
because of the plant environment. What about, though, the Internet of Things? I mean, the modern manufacturing plant is robotic, is connected, is web-enabled, is measurable, monitorable. That's Industry 4.0. Doesn't that open up Pandora's box of security concerns?
It does, but using good sound practices can eliminate a lot of that right away. So things like good change control for firewalls and for deployments of new hardware, you can get rid of a lot of that risk just by making sure that you're following that process and that you have that process in place. A lot of the times when we look at incidents that involve things like IoT, DVR,
What's DVR?
Digital video recorders, so camera systems, HVAC systems, these things get put on the internet and they completely ignore a process they have to try to prevent things like that from being done because they're done as either part of projects that aren't quite as well connected to the IT department internally, or that decision is made and is kind of pushed through. So making sure that you're following all of the same practices you need to for other devices is important for those too.
And I need to pause here to make our audience aware that we had a very important announcement this week with the Michigan Manufacturers Association, we being ASK. ASK and MMA, Michigan Manufacturers Association, has launched a brand new program called the MMA Cyber Threat Protection Program. And what this is the Michigan Manufacturers Association soliciting our team, our security team, to offer a variety of security solutions to any manufacturer in Michigan who's a member of the MMA at discounted pricing with a bunch of special add-ons and other additions that we're putting into the program. So this just was announced, I believe, yesterday. There's going to be a large spread explaining this program in the Michigan Manufacturers Association magazine, which comes out in this week sometime or next week. You'll see it online or in print. And we're very excited about this because of our, just our loyalty to that industry, our involvement in that industry, the leadership of Chuck Haddon and the MMA, and our team. I think is going to make a difference in things that you're talking about. Industry 4.0, how do you protect the business, the different culture. We've got a suite of solutions ready to go.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this program. I think that it's a really good partnership, and it's helpful for manufacturers that may not necessarily have the expertise or the time to go out and spend a year vetting solutions. They've really put together a lot of information that's very manufacturing centric, and for us it's great too because we get to lean on their expertise in the manufacturing industry and really look at the security that we're offering and how it fits in with the process and everything else of manufacturing industries.
Absolutely. To end on a maybe lighter note, maybe more disturbing note. Recently in Michigan, on I-75, major thoroughfare across the country, a digital billboard was hacked. And on that billboard, somebody displayed, so maybe, Shodan, I don't know all your terms, but
go ahead.
Somebody displayed pornographic videos for 15 to 20 minutes before they got it taken down.
Right.
How did that happen?
So,
was it you?
It was definitely not me.
You. Okay.
I have better things to do with my time.
Right.
But a couple of things have come together to give a picture of how this took place. So prior to the adult video being on the billboard was actually showing a Windows 7 desktop.
Okay.
And the way a lot of those billboards work is there's actually a shelter or like a shed at the bottom of that billboard that contains electronics to make the billboard work. Including, in this case, it looks like
a laptop,
computer.
A computer.
Right. So it sounds like, and some video's been released by the police showing two individuals physically breaking into the shed. So the hack may have included no more than them breaking into a shed
and running pornography on that laptop.
An unlocked computer.
Unlocked computer.
Yeah.
As simple as that. Physical security is part of cybersecurity.
And back to manufacturing, physical security can be much more important. I mean, we, again, always think it's important for everyone, but in manufacturing, it can be incredibly important, especially if you have any type of food certifications. Physical security is something that often gets overlooked or gets implemented without a lot of thought put into place.
Yeah.
And we are one of the few companies that I'm aware of that still does risk assessments that include physical security as
Absolutely.
part of
Yeah, your team, everything from physical security to back-end forensics and everything in between, which makes us very unique, all certified. That's all your team does is cybersecurity. Yep. They don't do that and IT support. They don't do that and project support. You do cybersecurity all day long, every day.
We do.
That's why we call you Shodan. And with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back next quarter. This is Mike and Josh, Mike and Shodan, signing off.